Hi, this is Tyler Rawson. This is the Nerding Out speech or speech number 3, Nerding Out. Yeah, I'm doing mine on electricity. So let's get right into it. Have you ever wondered about the miracle that is electricity? Interestingly, although it is a pure expression of energy, it has more to do with physics and the laws of our universe than in the ways which we apply it. Now, why does this even matter to you? Electricity is essential to our modern society, and understanding how it works can increase your safety and situational awareness in dangerous or emergency situations, as well as decrease the amount of money that leaves your pocket yearly in frivolous repair expenses or useless upgrades. Through this speech, I will explain how electricity works, the dangers that commonly arrive to everyday people, and how to react to them, and finally, what truly matters when you look at efficiency in terms of electrical appliances. So, how electricity works. Electricity is the use of the energy that transfers between a positive charged object and a negative charged object. It's the pure energy that transfers through wires and to lights and stuff like that. And it's an expression of work, right? So how we think about it is, if I plug my computer into the wall, it's going to light up and I'm going to be able to compute with it. And that is doing work. Or if I plug the fan into the wall, the electricity is going to spin the motor that spins the blades that cools me off. So, a essential part of this is understanding Ohm's law, which is volts equals current times resistance. So it's saying that the amount of volts that you can produce in a given system is equal to the current running through the system, the actual amount of like sine wave energies that go through the system, times the resistance of that system. So things that are sort of fun to think about, that are a little bit outside the box of electricity and in our like modern understanding of it, right? So we think about computers and cars now and refrigerators and all this other stuff, but it's actually so integral to the universe that it's the way that our brains create thought, and it's the way that our hearts keep track of rhythm, and it runs throughout our entire bodies through our nerves. And that's actually what gives us the sensation of feeling, which I think is pretty neat. It's like, oh, the same thing that spins my fan is also the same thing that runs my brain. It's kind of a little bit of a wow factor. So moving right along, some of the dangers that can be found in your home and some of your habits is the underestimation of what 120 volts really feels like. I was an electrician's apprentice for a year and a half, and there has been a handful of times that I've taken they call it getting bit, because it feels like an animal kind of biting you sometimes. It's not a pleasant feeling, and it happens, it just happens during the course of work. But through the handful of times that I have experienced this, I know that it's really not a joke. There's a certain, every time that happens to you, you kind of pause and reflect and think, oh gosh, did I really just put my hand on that live wire, even though it's marked live and I knew that it was live and I was the one who hooked it up and did all these other things. So more to that point, being really respectful of the electrical outlets in your house is usually the number one thing that I see a lot of people don't that's like the greatest danger point, right? From my perspective, is a lot of people will get really frustrated, right, when an outlet's not working, and then they'll pull it from the wall. And I would never do that while the system is live, right? Because if it's the wire that came off and you pull it out of the wall, you're going to get hit with that wire in your hand or some part of your body, and that's going to bite you. And now 120 volts is not usually dangerous to the average person. There's a reason why it still runs in our homes, and it's not like the end of the world, right? But when it starts to get even a little bit more scarier is when we move up to supply size voltage, right? So like your 240 outlets that are behind your electric dryer or your electric stove, or the 240 outlet that you might just have from a past appliance, right? And that's when things get really sort of dangerous, right? 240 volts is the perfect amount of alternating current to lock up your muscles. So when you're an electrical apprentice, you get trained on what to do when somebody gets hooked on the line, when they're shaken and the electricity is coursing through them and they can't physically let go of whatever hung them up, right? And that's where that term comes from. Being hung up on a line means that your muscles are contracting and you can't let go of whatever it is that's causing the harm to you. And what you have to do in that situation is to literally spear tackle somebody or drop kick them and remove yourself from the ground in an effort to save them, because if you walk up to them and touch them, you will become part of the chain. And that can go on for as many people as it takes, right? Until somebody knocks everybody over. And so there was a great example that I heard about from one of my older apprentice, or like older journeyman, was that one of his journeymen way back in, like, I don't know, it was way back in the day, right? He was an old guy. He was putting up lights in a commercial area, and he got hung up on 240, and he was up 10 feet in the air on a ladder. And the journeyman who was there, who was my mentor, had to kick the ladder out from under him and let him fall and break his arms, because if they would have left him up there, or if they tried to move him away in a different manner, they all would have gotten shocked. Which is kind of like a harrowing thing to hear, as like a 22-year-old kid going into this trade. You're like, oh gosh, like I need to really be prepared for dealing with these high voltage situations. So spinning that off and a little bit into like these sort of appliances and like the efficiency versus like cost thing that I was talking about before. Like I said, I was an electrician's apprentice, and then after that I was a certified appliance repairman. So when we think about efficiency versus cost, what we're talking about is the Green Star Energy rating from the U.S. government, or whatever governing body that it is. And the way that they look at it is this what's the least amount of electricity that we can put into this machine for the most amount of work, right? So if you buy a new clothes washer or a new 2-in-1 dryer clothes washer, you're going to notice that there's going to be a base cycle set that is going to be 1.5 times, 2 times as long as your older models, right? And that's because there's less water going into the machine, there's less electricity being pumped through the machine, and so their thought is, okay, it's a little bit more inconvenient for the consumer, but it's going to save us on energy, right? And where they really kind of get you too is that they'll charge you more for it. So when you think about upgrading your appliances and you think, oh man, I got something from, like I moved into a house here, it's like from the 2000s, it's got like 2005 appliances. I would recommend, at least for the laundry appliances, really considering keeping them in place and using them for the entire duration that you can, because those pre-2010 era appliances to like 1982 appliances still have all of the same parts across the board, and they still have a lot of life left on them. So that's just sort of my 2 cents on that. In conclusion, deepening our understanding and practical knowledge of electricity can keep us safe and save us money. Through understanding how Ohm's law operates, the voltage times current and resistance, we can understand a little bit more about why electricity, moves through our systems that way, why the washing machine spins and this sort of thing. And through understanding and respecting the potential dangers of electricity, we can gain a greater appreciation for our own habits and our own level of awareness for electrical situations. Making sure we understand the costs and values of new electrical efficiency standards can make us smarter with our money and how we value what we already have. which I think is also a great way to think about how we approach the environment, right? Like if you can keep that machine running, how long can you, stave off buying a new machine, right? And then the old machine's not going to a landfill, and it's all that stuff. So, in conclusion, just taking the time to really respect electricity and how it affects us as modern people will save us money, time, and increase our safety awareness. So, thank you for listening. Have a great day.